play. She's
Hey,
not very
it's
old,
on,
is
guys.
she? Wow.
Speakers are on.
9. She's happy.
That's nice.
Ready?
And
My gavel's falling apart. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education Truth in Taxation hearing for December 11th, 2018. Julie, could you please take the roll?
Sure. Mark Berry.
Present.
Philip Hood, absent. Julie Godshall, present. Leanne Charlo, absent. Richard Hegg.
present.
John Rosen.
Present.
Susan Ryder.
Present.
Okay, so we have a quorum, and the first item is just to state the purpose of this hearing, and the purpose of this meeting is to allow individuals the opportunity to be heard and comment on the proposed 2018 tax levy. The first thing we're going to do is have Jay take us through an overview of the levy, correct?
Since we've presented about the proposed levy for the last several meetings, I'm just going to jump right into the numbers. The complete presentation is available on our website, and I'm happy to answer questions for the community if anybody wants to contact me at the district office. The three main parameters for calculating the tax levy are the CPI and the existing property value and then the new property value. The 2017 CPI that's used in the calculation is 2.1%. That's the same as last year. And the projected growth in existing equalized assessed property value is 1.7%. New property growth is expected to be $2.5 million, which is about in line with historical numbers. We also ran a long-term projection to determine how much money was needed for operations, and the projection indicates that a CPI increase and modest new property projected every year is required to keep the budgets balanced and to keep our fund balance flat.
I like the new chart, by the way.
Like the new chart. Yeah. Better, yeah. Good.
It looks better every single time.
Well, I get great input.
That's
so.
because of all the great work that the board has done to get it level, so.
You mean our complaining?
So as a district, we're asking for a CPI increase to keep fund balance in the desired range, to keep a revenue growing at the pace to keep up with inflation due to some uncertainty as we are settling legal issues and negotiating our contract with our teachers union, to address upcoming facility needs and to preserve our PTEL base for future levies. We are still able to adjust our debt extension through April of 2019.
Jay, the one thing I wanted to point out, and I apologize because I didn't talk about this with you when we were talking about the board meeting tonight. When we say address facility needs, that 20-year facility plan will be done this year. And so everything that we need to finish up in the buildings, including boilers at the middle school, roofs for the buildings down the road, all of that will be addressed right in the facility plan, which is another reason we ask for CPI. So every year we can budget money for that and take care of some things.
Can you also maybe expand a little bit on what the debt extension would affect, adjusting the debt extension has for us, or opportunity it has for us?
Well, the county levies, or the county automatically extends enough to pay the interest and principal payments on our debt as the debt was issued, so the county already knows how much money is needed. That is not included in the levy. So the levy is, we're asking for operating funds, whereas the debt is automatically extended. And so that's not part of this ask, and they will extend that, and they'll finalize it in April. So we still have until April to change that number if we needed to for any reason. So looking at it in total, the CPI is 2.1%. And so the parameters on top that I already went over, 1.7% increase in existing property value and 2.5 million in new property will give us, so the CPI increase is about $300,000 total, would be, or 315,000. So the operating levy ask for CPI is 15,364,000. The addition of new property, or the taxes that would be levied on new property that was not on the rolls last year, adds another $57,000. Some rounding, and basically rounding up to the nearest $100,000 would get us to 15,455,000, for a total increase of 2.7%.
So what was our estimated new property when we built the budget last year?
I'm estimating about 2.5 million a year.
We were
$3 million.
million three to the
2.5 to 3
the
million. a year.
benefit over what we estimated last year. 'Cause we actually had 3.3. And when we did put this plan together last year, what were you thinking in terms of new
Well,
property?
the county, so my long-term projection has about $3 million in it
Okay,
annually. And I've actually since lowered that to 2.5, to 2% CPI and 2.5 million in new property to be conservative. The county gives us an estimate. They do all their calculations in June. So before I do this calculation, I have an estimate. And Lake County Treasurer or Assessor's Office is very good, and they're pretty good at hitting their numbers. So I have a fairly good idea what it will be. So I'm estimating a little bit high. Last year, it came in at, I think they estimated 7.8, and it came in at 7.7 or something.
okay.
So compared to our long-term projection, we exceeded it a little bit last year, and so we had some additional new property.
Right.
And it was maybe on the order of $10,000 or $20,000 in total, that additional benefit from that. The debt service extension is going up by 1.3%, so our total tax extension for the community would be a 2.5% increase, or $17,625,000. To an existing homeowner in a $600,000 home, with the debt extension, it would be an increase of about $95 per household. And then if you notice, our tax rate is going up very, very slightly, about a half a penny per $100 of value, and that's because the CPI is increasing faster than the existing property values. So there's a balance with those, and if the CPI goes up more than the property value, then your tax rate goes up, and so it's pretty close. So we're almost flat, 0.2% increase, and that's all I had. Unless there's any
Does the
other
board have any
questions.
questions?
Yeah, this is time for comments.
Have you ever gotten questions from the community on this?
No.
We would now typically offer the audience to ask any questions, who are welcome to if they like. But if anybody from the community has further questions, they can reach out to Jay Kahn at our district office, either by phone or email. And those numbers and contact information is on our website. So we're happy to entertain questions about this if there are any others. Anything else from the board or administration? May I have a motion to close this truth and taxation hearing at 6:53?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this hearing is closed, and we will resume our regular board meeting at 7 PM.
Oh, we should turn this off, shouldn't we?
Okay, welcome everybody to the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education meeting, regular meeting for December 11th, 2018. Julie, could you please take the roll?
Sure. Susan Ryder.
Present?
Philip Hood, absent. Mark Berry.
Present.
Leanne Charlo, absent. Julie Godshall, present. Richard Hegg.
Present.
John Rosen.
Present.
All present. We have a quorum, so we can begin. So if everybody would please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As we do every week, every meeting, we offer the opportunity for anybody from the public to address the board and address the board. So if anybody would like to, please do so now. Not seeing anybody, we will offer the opportunity to the board to offer a future agenda item to make sure you have the opportunity to get things on future agendas that you believe are important, or to raise an item that needs to be discussed tonight that was not planned. So if anybody has something, please let me know. Otherwise, you can email Jean or myself with agenda items at any time. Moving on, we will start with recognition and reorganize just a little bit to start with our retirement recognition for Ms. Jean Amundsen.
So Jean, if you go up to the podium up here, Mark is going to read something for you. While he's going up, Jean is our longest-term employee. And she has done many jobs in the district. She is the historian. Whenever we need to know what's happened and why we do different things, we ask Jean, and she always knows. Very, very helpful to parents. She's the face of our district. She's the first person people talk to for registration. And our record keeper and help with teachers and all of the office area. And I'd be talking all night if I talked about all the things she's doing. And we have very fun conversations about what she's going to do in retirement, and I look forward to hearing on what she's going to be doing. And now what happens is Mark will read you a retirement resolution, and this is just the way for the board to honor you for all your years of service.
And then I get to roast you.
I've been on this for a month.
She roasts you.
So Jean, this is a resolution honoring the service of Jean Amundsen. Whereas Jean Amundsen, after serving as administrative assistant for more than 32 years at Lake Bluff School District 65, has decided to retire. And whereas it is the desire of this Board of Education on behalf of its members, its faculty, and the community to extend its sincere appreciation for her loyalty to this school district. And whereas during her many years of service, she has demonstrated her willingness to cooperate with fellow staff members, administrators, and to assist the many teachers who have come to the district and departed during her tenure in Lake Bluff. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education, District 65, Lake Bluff, Lake County, Illinois, that there be extended to Jean Amundsen its appreciation for her contribution to the children of the school district, as well as its earnest desire that she have many, and I'll say many, years of contented retirement. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful, wonderful post-Lake Bluff experience.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Well, thank you. I've seen many people come, many people go in the district. I've been in many of the different buildings. I started my career in the office of the middle school, and I'm ending it in the garden level of middle school. I have kids come in, and they say, "Is that Mrs. Amundsen over there?" And Tammy will go, "Yes, it is." And they'll go, "Mrs. Amundsen, do you know me? I had you when I was in the middle school." And I'm like looking at a birth certificate going, "Oh yes, I do know you, and I know your parents." So, yeah, and so I guess in the words of my younger sister who retired in June, you can do what you want, when you want. You're not on a schedule anymore. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yes.
That
We're
sounds
really
great.
excited
Good for
for you.
you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. And we have a retirement reception for Jean on Monday. We have a lot of the staff coming to honor both Jean and Vicky Beschel at our middle school. So thank you for all your work. We
Okay,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And now, I guess Jean's gonna do a little something.
Song and dance?
Little song and dance.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. As many of you know, and we've been working through it, we lost a dearly beloved teacher, Darcy Johnson, a couple weeks ago. And it was the week of board member recognition. And we were very tied up with trying to take care of our staff and our students, but I didn't want you to think we forgot about you, because all of you have spent endless hours talking about a variety of things, and the impact that all of you have on students in the district will be lifelong. You know, as your kids come back and visit, you will be able to remember some of the decisions you've made. You'll be able to look at that fund balance chart and think of all the work that we put in to get to that fund balance chart to bring stability to finances in the school district. So what you've got in front of you is just a very small token. Wear it proudly. We had to guess sizes on a couple of them, but we thank you for everything you do and your endless hours you volunteer.
We'll wear it proudly. Thank you. All right. Oh, neat. That's great.
It's a District 55. Very cool.
For all you do.
Yours says 55?
It should say 65, right?
65. What did I say? 65.
I'm like, uh-oh, did we mess that up?
Thank you.
Oh, that is a 6.
All right, now we're gonna move on
This
to
is
reports,
great.
and tonight, I believe we only have one, oh, wait, we're gonna go right to Mr. Khan, our Director of Business, and he's gonna give us an update on our audit.
So the state has completed their review of the THIS audit for the teachers' retirement system and issued a new report. So our auditors have received that, and they finished up our audit last weekend. So we should have it filed with the state by December 15th, which is the deadline. And he'll be coming at the January regular board meeting to present the audit to the board.
And the reason for the update is because it was postponed, it was delayed because of that.
Right, all the audits in the entire state.
Right,
Teacher retirement audit is a part of the liabilities of every district, and there was an error in the report, so they had to reissue the report, and it took a month or two to.
so we're still
rework it.
compliant and with whatever deadlines there are.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And when are they coming again, Jay?
We're planning on the regular board meeting for January.
Okay.
Did you want to have a report
I
tonight?
I do not have a report
Okay, so
tonight.
we are done
Have a
with-
great holiday. That's my report.
Yeah, and to the Amundsens, you do not have to stay for any of this.
You will not, read it, get up and go.
Thank you for coming, congratulations.
Unless you have insomnia, you can stay, if you have insomnia, you can stay.
Yeah.
Get home quick, you can watch us on cable, we are live. Okay, so discussions, Dr. Rubenstein is gonna lead us through a discussion on student achievement.
Yes. So this report was also held over from November. And so in September and October, we talked about student achievement. September, we talked about Board Goal 1 related to local assessments. October, just to refresh your memory, we talked about where we were with respect to our own goals and how our students achieved on the park assessments, the state science assessments, and proficiency information, and how we were using that data. And now in November/December, we're talking about how we grew year over year, and about our ESSA indicators and comparisons. So, because we have comparisons to other schools across the area. So those are the strategic plan indicators. Those are not new. Over the last couple of months. So we're really looking at growth, achievement, and students in different subgroups. That's the basic theme of each of those strategic plan indicators. And then new for this year, this is the newer thing here, is that we have this thing called ESSA. So we talked about this at the last board meeting. And ESSA is a nationwide thing, and the state has put into place its statewide ESSA plan for measuring schools. And this year, schools are rated, 50% of their rating is based on growth. So 25% of it is based on math growth, 25% of it is based on ELA growth, another 20% is based on chronic absenteeism, 5% of it is based on the Illinois 5 Essential Survey. Small portion of it is based on math and ELA proficiency, so about 20% overall there. And then 5% of it is based on EL growth to proficiency, so the English learners' growth to proficiency. And then based on the results in each of those categories, schools are given a designation. So from top to bottom, exemplary, commendable, underperforming, or lowest performing. Yes.
For our massive viewing audience, could you, if somebody tuned in and said, what is an ESSA weighting? What is ESSA?
So ESSA is the Every Student Succeeds Act. It's a federal law that took the place of No Child Left Behind. And so it is the accountability measure that's used by the entire country and the state of Illinois.
Thank you.
So, based on ESSA, they split everybody up into 4 designations. The highest designation that a school can earn is exemplary, and the next designation that you can earn would be commendable. And I say school because it used to be under No Child Left Behind that it was a district ranking. That's no longer the case. And so you'll see in your board presentation this evening that there's actually a lot more data there. It's split up based on the schools rather than on the districts. So you used to see how we compared to other school districts, and now you're going to see how each of our individual schools compare to individual schools within the other districts. And so we are always aiming to be exemplary in the top 10% of schools with no underperforming subgroups. So the results, so growth is obviously the biggest piece of the puzzle, and so that's something that we're always keeping our eye on. And in our growth scores, Lake Bluff Elementary School had the second highest growth score of all of the schools in our area for ELA, and then LBMS was around in the middle. And so this is something that really actually put us over the top in terms of our ratings and our designations as you were looking at this, because if 25% of your score is near the top, then you're going to obviously do very well. And so if you look across the bottom at some of the other schools and where they fell, you'll see that you'll see later on that some of their achievement may have been high, but if their growth was not high as well, then they may not have been a commendable school. An exemplary school, and they may have fallen into the commendable category, and so that's something that we really keep an eye on. In terms of math, again, both of our schools really were doing quite well and fell into the top ranges here in terms of growth percentiles across the board, and fell into the top tier here. And so we did very, very well. And again, like I said before, some of those schools across the bottom, like I want to say, some of these schools over here, over on the left, like Oak Grove has a high percentage of students who achieved at a very high level, but they did not necessarily have a high percentage of students who grew at that rate, and so their ESSA rating was not as high as ours, and so it really makes a difference.
Isn't it harder to grow when you are already near the top on achievement?
Not the way that this is measured.
Oh, okay.
So the way that this is measured is year over year, student to student. So it is actually a similar way to the way that our ECRA growth scores are done. And so it's not as hard as it should be. So,
Because that just makes
yeah,
it-
exactly.
me feel more reassured about our future, because if we're doing
That
very
is
well.
exactly it, yes.
How about the subset of competitive schools? Is that something that was defined for us, or did we pick that to present?
We have picked that year over year, and that is something that we use not only for achievement, but we also use it for our bargaining purposes. Those are
Oh, this is the
comparable
same
schools, yep.
Oh, I didn't
Yep,
recognize
exactly.
individual
Sorry.
schools. I
Yep,
know the
exactly.
districts, but-
So, yep, these are our comparable districts broken down into individual schools, so, yes.
Thanks.
So then, as we look at student growth percentiles for students with disabilities, so this is a situation, what they did for students with disabilities and for all of the subgroups is that they said you actually have to perform. So you don't have to be like in the top levels, you just have to perform you have to perform in your top subgroup. And so we obviously did, and so there was a certain cutoff, and we were well above that certain cutoff in both of our schools in ELA, and then the same thing in math. And so that's for students with disabilities. Then as we look at our English learners, for ELA and math, you'll see that the charts get smaller because not all schools in the area in our subgroup have English learners in their subgroup, and so it's a little bit of a different comparison. And then it's the same thing for students from low-income backgrounds. It's a very different chart, but we still perform very well when we look at the student growth across the board for ELA and math. We did very, very well when we look at our growth. So I want to stop right there and ask if there's any questions about growth and how we did there, because the next thing that I'm going to move into there is the smaller part of our scores, which were achievement. Okay, so achievement is a little bit different. So the overall goal for the Illinois ESSA plan, and every state had to submit this, is to have 90% of students on track for college and career readiness by the year 2032. So to get there, the state sets sort of interim benchmarks every year. And so if you were over that interim benchmark, then you got 100% of the points. And so the interim benchmark for this year for ELA for the all students group was 43.03% of the students, and the interim benchmark for this year for math was 38.93. But for the IEP subgroup, it was 18.78 and 19.10, and you can see where those were across the board. So you don't always get all the points just based on the achievement, and so that could impact us one way or another as time goes on.
At what grade level do you start taking these measurements?
So currently, the assessments are given in 3rd through 8th grade.
So we're measuring kids' college readiness in the 3rd grade.
On track.
Yes.
That's
On track.
about whether they are on track. Yes, exactly.
It's a long track.
Yes, it is. So you can see here the percentage of students on track for college and career readiness. Everybody to the right of this line here received 100% of the points. Okay, so we obviously received 100% of the points, and these are our ELA scores in terms of the percentage proficient, and we had still a strong percentage of our students who are proficient, but this is a small percentage of our overall score. It's only 10% of our overall score. And as we move into math, again, everybody to the right of this red line received 100% of the points. Okay, so while our numbers were about where they have been in the past couple of years, this is about this is 10% of our score, and we received 100% of the points. And so it becomes a little bit of a numbers game here, where you sort of have to play some of those pieces out. Because as you start to look at percentage of students at the highest level on the state assessment for ELA, this is not something that is counted in our overall ESSA scores, but this is something that's in our strategic plan. So this is something that we wanted to sort of show you guys about how we compare to other schools and districts. So this is the percentage of our students in our school district that were at the highest level on the ELA assessment. And then the same thing for math. So that sort of bears out there. And then as we look at the percentage of students with disabilities on track for college and career readiness, and again, you can see the numbers are a little bit different. And so we may not have received 100% of the points there, but it still was enough to push us over where we needed to be.
Let me ask a
Yes.
hypothetical question, just for my own interest. If you could measure the Lake Bluff Middle School kids that were measured today for this program, back when they were in elementary school, would their scores been at 28, or would they be down closer to 13?
In terms of students with disabilities?
Take any of them, because it seems to me like the Lake Bluff Middle School scored higher in a number of these different categories compared to elementary school. So what I'm suggesting is, if those kids, if you could have measured those kids back in elementary school, or do you expect to, conversely, the elementary school kids to be at the higher level when they get to that point?
Right. So what we see over time in our scores, and it's hard to see in a graph like this, but what we see in our scores is that the longer a student has been in our district, the better off they are. And so that bears out in their MAP scores and in their PARC scores. So it really does hold a lot of water, that after they've been in our curricular programs for a while and they've started to learn to understand sort of the way that the world works here, that they start to do a little bit better. The other thing that I will say, and Kelly talked about this in October, is that we've had a number of curricular changes at the middle school over the last year that really pushed some of these ELA scores up above where they had been. We've done a lot of work with our middle school teachers, and the teachers are being pushed really, really hard, and they are feeling it, and they're being pushed at all levels. I will say that our teachers are at all levels are being pushed very, very hard to make sure that we are constantly giving our kids the best curricular programs that we can possibly give them. So that is because in order to, we already know, in order to maintain an exemplary standard, you need to constantly reinvent yourself. And you need to constantly be reviewing your programs and constantly looking for what is going to allow you to reach that next level.
It's really continuous improvement.
It is.
That's what it is.
Yep.
So this is all wonderful news, but I want to sidebar just for a second. And if teachers listen to this at all, say how appreciative we are of all the extra work they put into professional development.
Yes.
And the time and the hours they spend on this, that helps us deliver this kind of product to the community.
Yes.
And it's without these kind of the effort from the teachers and the time they spend, this might not be possible. So
Right.
on behalf of everybody, I want to say thank you, and we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean,
Absolutely.
So, I will say, so over the last week, we have delivered from staff developers alone during the day. We've delivered, I want to say, 15 hours of staff development to our English department alone, staff development with our teachers. So at the middle school and at the elementary school. It is not something that every school district gets to do, and our teachers are really, I know, excited about that work, and we are really lucky to be able to do that work. So
We are.
that's exciting to
All
be
good
able to
news.
do. So
And we're lucky to be able to afford it, right?
absolutely, yep. So again, the percentage of students with disabilities on track for college and career readiness in math, again, the information is there for you. And percentage of EL students on track for college and career readiness in ELA. You can see how we did there. So one thing that the state is working on, and I will just sort of put this out there, and it was the first year of these data being put out there publicly. And it bears it out in some of our special education reporting, and I will also say in some of our EL and low income reporting, because it sort of plays out in, those are not perfectly concentric circles, but they do overlap in some ways, is that for schools, so we have some students who are placed in other school districts, and their scores were reported to those other school districts. That's not actually the way that it's supposed to work. And so for a school district like, I'm just guessing here, but for a school district like, or a school like 109 Wilmot that may have a higher number of students who are placed in another school in their district, their accountability scores went to another school in that district, and so it may have dragged those scores down in another school. And
Really
so
was not
it's,
fair.
and so it is not reflected here. So we fixed that for next year, but it's reflected differently here. And so it just plays out in a couple of different ways in the scores here. And that's why, like Bannockburn 106, I know has a high number of students who are outplaced. And so like their most impacted kids are not included in their scores here. So that's how I know that they have 70% of their kids who with disabilities who are on track for college and career readiness, because they are measuring it on a small subset of their actual kids with disabilities. So I'm just putting that out
A
there.
lot of it has to do with the district's philosophy on how they will deal with.
And how the state reported it.
How the state reports it.
Yep. And then the percentage of low-income students on track for college and career readiness, and so you see ELA and math. The next thing here is results of the science assessment. I know this is really near and dear to John's heart, and our students did really very, very well here. So our middle school students were the top performers in the area. We've done a lot of work in that. We continue to do a lot of work in that area. And the elementary school students are coming right along. So I would have comparisons year over year. And I said this in October, but I would have comparisons year over year. But this is a 3-year cohort, and so we don't have. They have not had 3 years to take this assessment yet. So we've got that. And then just in terms of chronic absenteeism, so you can see sort of where we fall and about what that looks like. And so we are a little bit higher.
Do we want to be on the left-hand side of this
We
chart?
want to be on the left-hand side of the screen. And that's 20% of our overall score. And so that's really important. That's why we've been talking about that with people. Yep.
4.3 represent days per student, or is that
No,
another? just
that's 4.3% of our students were chronically absent.
And that's defined as 10 or more days per semester?
10 or more school days in the school year.
Oh, in the school year.
And it is for any reason, excused or
I
unexcused.
mean, it doesn't matter what they're out for. If they're gone, they're gone.
I think it was 10 days a semester, but I must.
That's how we did it the first couple of years as we introduced it.
I see.
Yep.
So that's 10% in total, roughly, of 800 kids. That's 80 kids.
Yeah, that's
80 kids we have that are chronically absent.
It's a lot, isn't it?
That
It is a lot.
Right. That is. That's why.
We agree
now,
with you.
Now, we have actually reduced that number significantly over the last several years, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I noticed that the schools in District 112 are oftentimes on the lower end of the proficiency, not calling them out in particular, but the correlation to proficiency in chronic absenteeism is really noticeable.
Very high.
And that is something, this is something our parents can help control.
Yep.
It is, obviously not every absence is controllable, but these are numbers that are discretionary to a great degree, and we really need to get that across to the parents.
Because the kids need to be here to have the utmost student achievement.
Right. That, and so I think you said it
Very well.
very well, that we are concerned about being further to the right with the other schools who have a lower level of achievement there.
Our parents will have access to this information, correct? Besides just
Yes.
browsing on the website? There's gonna be some-
Absolutely. Yep.
An article about this, I don't know, without,
Let me think about
something.
that. Because
Do
I think
think
that,
about
I think we should
Yeah.
maybe put it in, on the Bluff,
I agree.
an article there, because they're all due next week anyway.
I think that would be very
I
compelling.
agree.
I do too.
Along with some citation of research that,
Right.
that supports the idea that being in
Because
school
there's lots of good
means
news
higher.
here, but this,
Yeah.
this is something that parents really need to pay attention to.
Agreed.
So of the 41 schools in our comparison group, 15 of them earned exemplary designations. Lake Bluff Middle School was actually the only middle school in our comparison group that earned an exemplary rating.
That's cool.
And so that is really rather exciting. The vast majority, the majority of them attained a commendable rating, and many of them are happy with this. And so we're not going to rest on our laurels of exemplary ratings. We're really going to continue to work hard and continue to work on improving and we're going to continue to focus on student growth and helping to move all students forward.
Does this list contain all the schools that were listed in the previous
Yes.
slides?
In our
Yes.
comparables too.
Yep.
I don't see Daniel Wright in here.
They're not, is
So,
Lincolnshire in our
I just-
comparables?
Daniel, yep. So
They were near the top. in a lot of
you
the
are
other
correct.
categories.
And where did I put them? So Daniel Wright is actually, they ended up being, you're right. So they may have been an exemplary school. You're correct.
I only say that because one of my golfing buddies used to teach at Daniel Wright, and I noticed the,
So you're gonna,
That's right, Jim Townsend.
Attention
Yes,
to detail,
exactly,
that was
yes.
quite impressive.
My goodness,
The
yes,
reason.
you're right. Yeah.
it's competition is what it is.
Where's Daniel Wright? So yes, I believe that Daniel Wright ended up with exemplary, but their two elementary schools were
Commendable,
commendable.
yeah.
But, yeah,
This is all great news.
It is.
Yep,
You guys are
lots to
doing a
be
great
proud
job.
of.
Our administrators and our teachers are doing a great job.
Absolutely.
That is good.
Our parents should be very happy.
Yeah, a lot to be proud of.
All right.
Any questions for Kevin?
I do think, Kevin, one of the things we're gonna need to strategize is on the Bluff, because I know the exemplary story will go on the front page.
Yep,
But I think the attendance might be something to highlight
that we need to
as
talk about.
areas to work on.
All right, we can do that. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, moving on. Item 9, action with discussion. A, the amended 1819 school calendar. We had a snow day on November 26th, so we need to file amended school calendar with the regional office as well as ISB, which requires Board of Ed approval. Would you like to address that?
Yes, we had our first snow day, and our makeup for that day will be President's Day in February, as per the calendar we approved last year.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments or concerns?
that's the same as the high school, the makeup day.
I'm not sure if the high school's doing it. There are some things we do differently. I'm not sure if that's the case with them.
We'll have, if it's not, then we'll have a high absenteeism rate.
We have a
On that
higher one anyway,
Yeah,
that day.
yeah.
We're gonna
right.
keep track of that day and Good Friday.
So may I
Yeah.
may I have a motion to approve the amended 1819 school calendar as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Item B is the resolution authorizing a supplemental property tax levy to pay the principal of and interest on outstanding limited bonds of the district. This is an annual approval, which allows the district to pay the principal and interest on outstanding bonds if needed. Jay, did you want to add anything to that?
Just the fact that, as I'd said earlier in the presentation, that the county automatically levies enough to pay the debt, the principal and interest payments on the debt. It's actually, they do that for our general obligation debt. The debt that was issued for the middle school was on our debt service extension base, and we need to update that every year so that the county knows what our new debt service extension base is, and that's the purpose of this resolution.
Anybody have any questions on this? So may I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing a supplemental property tax levy to pay the principal and interest on outstanding limited bonds of the district, as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Julie Godshall, yes. Richard Haig?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes.
Mark Barry?
Yes.
John Rosen?
Yes.
Motion's approved. Item C, the certificate of the tax levy. The final tax levy approval is brought for final approval. As we saw earlier, Mr. Khan presented in great detail information on the truth in taxation hearing earlier. Does anybody have any further questions for Mr. Khan? Anybody on the board or the administration want to add anything to this? May I have a motion to approve the certification of the 2018 tax levy?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Richard Haig?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes?
Mark Barry?
Yes.
John Rosen? Julie Godshall, yes.
Motion is approved. Item D, the personnel report. Personnel report involves 9 different items that I do have to read all of them. Under non-licensed new hires, we have a Joan Durig, administrative assistant at the district office, replacing Jean Edmondson, who's retiring effective December 20th of 2018. We have Nicole Wittern, a teaching assistant at the elementary school, replacing Lindsay Coulter at the effective December 10th, 2018. Under non-licensed resignations, we have Lindsay Coulter, the teaching assistant at the elementary school, effective December 19th of 18. David Pookie, a teaching assistant at the elementary school, effective November 16th, 2018. Under licensed new hires, we have Laura Starr, a drama teacher at just 0.4 FTE at the elementary school, replacing Robin O'Connor, effective December 4, 2018. We have David Pookie, social studies teacher in the 6th grade at the middle school, being hired to replace Darcy Johnson, effective November 16th, 2018. Under licensed FMLA, we have Kathleen Turner, a learning behavior specialist at the middle school, and for an FML leave effective March 26th through May 7th of 2019. We have Kathleen Sheffer, at 3rd grade teacher at the elementary school, FMLA leave effective November 16th through December 5th of 2018. And under licensed retirements, we have Jill Weinberger, who's a teacher in the 4th grade at the elementary school, effective June of 2023. Any questions or comments about those?
I assume David Pokey was licensed as a non-licensed.
David
I was trying
Pokey,
to figure that out.
David was actually a social studies teacher at the middle school.
Yeah.
And made the decision he had some back issues, to resign and take care of those issues. And when he wanted to come back, he really wanted to come back as a teaching assistant. He was friends with Darcy, and we are so thankful that he
Such a blessing.
he needs to be there for the kids and for the staff. So we are very grateful he's going to do that for
Yeah,
us.
Zach had him in middle school, and it's beautiful that he's able to come in like
And
this.
that was not something he really wanted to do, but it was not even any question to help us that he
Great.
would do that, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the personnel report for December 11th, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Susan Ryder?
Yes?
Mark Barry?
Yes.
John Rosen?
Yes.
Julie Godshall, yes. Richard Haig?
Yes.
The motion is approved. So now we're looking at our consent agenda, and this month's consent agenda includes, here we go. The open session meeting minutes from November 13th of 2018 for the regular Board of Education meeting, the closed session meeting minutes for the November 13th, 2018 regular Board of Ed meeting, the treasurer's report, the impress report, the bills report, including board member expenses, and the P-card report. Would anybody like any of that pulled out for individual discussion, or should we approve it all together? Not hearing that anybody wants anything pulled out, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mark Barry?
Yes.
John Rosen?
Yes.
Julie Godshall, yes. Richard Haig?
Yes.
Susan Ryder?
Yes.
Motion is approved. That is the last of our approvals. Item 10 is a FOIA request. We had none this month. Any public comments from the audience? Just not seeing any. I'm going to ask if anybody on the board wants to say anything. I have a motion to adjourn at 7:40 PM.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in
Well
favor?
done.
Aye.
Not in favor? Anybody?
Aye, no,
We are adjourned. Thank you.